They sharpened their knives in the dark, thinking you wouldn't see. But what they never expected was that the very blade they forged for you would be the one slicing through their own empire. They wanted to break you. They wanted to see you crawling, shattered, begging for mercy. But the problem? You were never built to break. They underestimated you, mistaking your silence for weakness, your patience for fear. They thought they were the hunters, but now they're the ones being hunted by their own downfall. This is the brutal truth that keeps them up at night. You were never just another target. You were the one thing they couldn't control, the one force they couldn't manipulate. The power you carry is like a storm, silent at first, but unstoppable once unleashed. That's why they obsessed over you. That's why they tried to tear you down. Because your very existence haunts them, while they were busy plotting against you, stacking lies on top of deception, building their kingdom on a foundation of betrayal. Something was happening behind the scenes. Their own collapse was already in motion, and now the walls are caving in. The same people who laughed while setting traps for you are the ones trapped now. The same ones who wished for your suffering are watching their own lives crumble. Their downfall is not an accident. It's not bad luck. It's not coincidence. It's the undeniable, unstoppable force of consequences catching up with them. Some call it karma, some call it justice. But whatever name you give it, one thing is certain: it never misses its mark. They thought they had all the time in the world to play their games. But the clock has run out. The mask has slipped. The fake power they paraded around, gone. And now they are scrambling, desperate, suffocating under the weight of their own actions. And you're still here, still standing, still rising, because no matter what they tried, they could never take what was meant for you. And here we are, standing at the edge of a truth they never wanted you to see. They tried to erase you, but now they're the ones being erased. Their time is up and their fate is sealed. But you're only getting started. If you've ever felt the weight of their schemes, the sting of their betrayal, and still found the strength to rise, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop 999 in the comments. That's the energy of final judgment, the sign that the tables have turned and there's no going back. And now, let's break this down step by step. Because if you are truly one of the chosen, you'll feel the pull to stay until the very end. Their downfall isn't just a possibility, it's happening right now. Let's get into it. Number 1. The fatal miscalculation of power. They stacked the deck, rigged the game, and laughed in your face, convinced they had already won. But here's the thing about cheaters. They always forget that the house always wins in the end. And you, the chosen one, you are the house. They thought they had power. They thought their money, influence, and connections made them untouchable. They walked around like kings, believing they could write the rules and erase anyone who stood in their way. To them, you were nothing more than a stepping stone, an inconvenience they could crush on their way up. But here's where they made their fatal miscalculation, thinking they had power over someone who was built to survive the impossible. You see, true power doesn't scream, it moves in silence. And while they were busy making noise, flexing their so-called dominance, you were becoming the storm they never saw coming. That's what separates the chosen from the rest. You don't need to prove yourself because your very existence shakes their foundation. That's why they targeted you. It was never about what you had. It was about what you are. Unshakable, unbreakable. A force they couldn't control. That scared them. So they plotted, schemed, and threw every weapon they had at you. They thought they were fighting flesh and bone, an easy opponent they could overpower. But they didn't realize they were going against something much bigger than themselves, something they had no idea how to fight. At first, it looked like they were winning. Their tactics seemed to work. You were pushed down, isolated, cornered like prey. They celebrated, thinking they had buried you for good. But here's what they forgot. The chosen don't break, they evolve. You weren't buried, you were planted. And while they were laughing, thinking the game was over, you were growing roots deeper than they ever imagined. And now, their time is up. The empire they built on deceit is crumbling beneath them. The lies they told are catching up. The alliances they once relied on, vanished. The power they flaunted, slipping through their fingers like sand. And the best part? They did this to themselves. No one needed to push them. They ran straight off the edge of the cliff thinking they were flying. They are scrambling now, trying to regain control, trying to outmaneuver consequences. But the thing about playing a game with no rules is that it always catches up to you. They underestimated who they were up against. They bet against the house, thinking they could cheat their way through. But you were never playing their game to begin with. Number 2. The ruthless boomerang of divine justice. They thought they were throwing knives, but they were really throwing boomerangs. And when those blades came flying back, they didn't just cut, they took everything. They were so focused on tearing you down, so obsessed with seeing you suffer, that they never once stopped to think, what if this all comes back to me? But that's the thing about deception, jealousy and hate. It never stays where you throw it. It circles back, harder, faster, deadlier. The moment they plotted against you, they unknowingly set their own downfall in motion. Every lie they told, every scheme they built, every betrayal they orchestrated, it was like pulling back a slingshot. And with every extra ounce of force they used against you, they only made sure it would hit them even harder. At first, they thought they were winning. They watched you struggle, they saw you in pain, and they enjoyed every second of it. They were convinced they had power over you, that they had finally succeeded in breaking you. They laughed in their circles, whispered behind closed doors, celebrating their so-called victory. But here's the part they never saw coming. They were never in control of the ending. While they were busy counting their wins, the storm was already forming over their heads. The same traps they set for you, now they're stuck in them. The same lies they told, now exposing them. The same destruction they wished on you, now swallowing them whole. The best part? You never had to lift a finger. You didn't have to seek revenge. You didn't have to fight back. You didn't even have to speak. Your silence became their worst nightmare. Because while they were loud, reckless and desperate to see you fall, you were untouchable. And that's what drove them mad. The realization that no matter what they did, nothing could stop you. Now they're scrambling, watching everything they built crumble into nothing. Their reputation destroyed, their power gone, their freedom slipping away. Because when you aim to destroy someone who was never meant to fall, you don't just fail, you become the victim of your own attack. And when the boomerang hits, it doesn't miss. Number 3. When ego becomes the enemy's executioner, they walked like giants, heads high, chests puffed, convinced they ruled everything they touched. But the higher they climbed, the thinner the air became, until their own ego became the noose around their necks. Ego is a powerful drug. It blinds, it deceives, and it destroys. And for the ones who came against you, ego was their deadliest poison. They believed they were untouchable, that their power, status, and connections made them invincible. They thought they controlled the game, but they never realized they were just a move away from checkmate. They saw your struggles and laughed. Look at them, weak, alone, broken. What they didn't know? You weren't weak, you were learning. You weren't alone, you were rebuilding. And you were never broken, you were just getting stronger in silence. That's the problem with ego. It convinces fools that they are above consequences. It makes them reckless, pushing limits they have no business crossing. They weren't satisfied with power. They wanted control. They weren't happy with success. They wanted to crush anyone who threatened their illusion of dominance. But when you challenge what you don't understand, you sign your own death warrant. They thought their lies, manipulation, and attacks would take you out. They played dirty, stacking the odds in their favor, believing the game was rigged forever. But ego always has a breaking point. And theirs? It's here. One by one, their power slips. The influence they relied on? Fading. The allies they trusted? Turning their backs. The status they built? Crumbling before their eyes. They thought they were untouchable, but reality is showing them the truth. They were never in control. And the cruelest irony, you didn't even have to fight back. Their own arrogance led them to this moment. Their belief in their superiority blinded them to the fact that they were their own worst enemy. They never saw the danger, not from you, but from the mirror that now forces them to face what they've become. Number 4. God turns their jail cell into a public spectacle. They strutted through life, untouchable, invincible, believing their power could silence truth forever. But now, the stage is set, the lights are on, and the whole world is watching their final act. A fall so brutal, even they didn't see it coming. They wanted you trapped, cornered, forgotten. They worked in the shadows, pulling strings, setting you up, doing everything in their power to make sure you would never rise. But here's the irony. They were only building their own cage. Now, the very ones who walked with arrogance, who played judge, jury, and executioner over others, sit in a cell with no escape. The doors they once slammed shut on others, locked behind them. The power they abused, ripped away in an instant. This isn't just punishment, it's exposure. Their entire downfall is a public spectacle. They thrived on deception, on controlling narratives, on bending the rules in their favor. But now, there's no hiding from the truth. No more fancy suits, no more flashing wealth, no more faking their way through life. They are stripped down to nothing, reduced to a number, sitting behind bars, forced to face the monster in the mirror. The chosen ones. They don't need revenge. Karma doesn't whisper, it roars. And while they sit in their cold reality, wrestling with their own guilt, you are rising higher than ever. They thought they buried you. They didn't realize you were a seed. That's what eats them alive more than anything. Not just the walls around them, not just the loss of power. It's the fact that after everything they did to destroy you, you're still here, winning, thriving, untouched. Their prison sentence is more than punishment. It's a warning, a message written in their disgrace, broadcasted for all to see, because no one escapes what they've built for themselves. They wrote their own ending the moment they came after you. Number 5. The assassination plot that backfired. Horrifically, they aimed for your throat, but they forgot one thing. When you come for the chosen, the knife always turns in your own hands. They didn't just want to inconvenience you, they wanted to wipe you out completely. Your peace, your reputation, your future. They wanted you broken, begging, and erased. Their obsession with your downfall became their full-time job. They studied you, tracked you, whispered in the shadows, pulling every string they could. But the problem with setting traps for someone like you weren't just walking blindly into their schemes. You were walking through fire and coming out untouched. The chosen ones don't just survive attacks. They expose the ones who tried. That's the part they never expected. They thought they had power, but every step they took against you was really a step toward their own destruction. Their plan was flawless, on paper. They were confident, so sure that their lies, their manipulations, their army of enablers would finally corner you. They were playing chess, moving in silence, convinced that this time they'd win. But here's what they didn't understand. The chosen ones don't play the game. They flip the entire board. And suddenly, everything they built starts crumbling. The fake alliances they formed, gone. The reputation they hid behind, destroyed. The influence they once used as a weapon, now working against them. What was supposed to be your downfall became their disaster. Now, they're the ones running from their own lies, running from the consequences, running from the same traps they set for you. And the best part? You didn't even have to fight back. They collapsed under the weight of their own wickedness. Their downfall was always in the cards. They just refused to see it. But now, they have no choice. They spent all their energy trying to erase you, and now, they're the ones disappearing. And you're still here, standing, thriving, untouched. Because the truth is, they never had the power to destroy you. They only had the power to destroy themselves. Number 6, the ultimate role reversal, from rulers to ruined. They pulled the strings, thinking they were the puppet masters, but now the show is over, and the only ones tangled in their own web are them. They used to sit high, dictating the rules, calling the shots, believing they had the final say over your life. They manipulated, controlled and schemed, moving in silence, convinced their power was permanent. You were just another obstacle, someone they could push around, use, or discard when it suited them. But power built on deception never lasts. They thought they were writing your ending, but what they failed to realize is, the pen was never in their hands. Now the tables have turned and they are drowning in the very storm they created. They once decided your fate, but now they have no control over their own. They are trapped, waiting, powerless to stop what's coming. The same tricks they used to manipulate others. Useless. The same alliances they depended on. Gone. The same confidence they carried when they were on top. Now replaced with fear. They spent years playing chess with people's lives, moving pieces around as if they were gods. But they never saw the moment when they themselves became the pawns. The game didn't just flip. It was always designed to expose them in the end. And what's even more devastating for them, you didn't have to lift a finger. While they're watching everything slip through their hands, you're rising. The position they tried to deny you, it's yours. The respect they tried to take, it's returning tenfold. The future they thought they could destroy, now stronger than ever. This was never about revenge. This was balance being restored. They believed they were untouchable, but no one outruns the weight of their own actions. The same fate they wished for you is now staring them in the face. And the best part? They never saw it coming. Number 7. The silent strategy of God that destroys enemies. The most dangerous move isn't an attack, it's a pause. While they were celebrating their victory, you were simply watching them walk into their own grave. There's nothing more unsettling than silence in the middle of a war. You waited, you watched, you felt the weight of their attacks while wondering, when will they face what they've done? They moved loudly, recklessly, convinced they were untouchable. And you stayed quiet, not because you were weak, but because you knew something they didn't. Real power doesn't rush. They thought they had won. They mistook the stillness for surrender, thinking your silence meant you had nothing left. But here's where they made their fatal mistake. They didn't realize silence is a strategy, not a defeat. When someone plays a dirty game, the worst thing you can do is interrupt. Let them dig their own hole. Let them think they've escaped. Let them feel safe in their lies. Because the moment they believe they've won, that's when they're most vulnerable. And now, they've exposed everything, every scheme, every betrayal, every move they made against you. It's all in the open now. They were so confident in their success that they didn't even see they were being watched the entire time. They were so focused on controlling you, on taking you down, that they didn't stop to realize the trap wasn't set for you. It was built for them. Now, there's nowhere left to run. They thought you were powerless because you weren't fighting back. They thought they had the upper hand because you weren't reacting. But now, the silence is suffocating them. The walls are closing in. Their own actions, their own words, their own arrogance, it's all collapsing on top of them. And the best part? They did it to themselves. See, silence isn't weakness. It's patience. It's letting them show their true colors before the final blow. And now, as their world falls apart, they finally understand. They weren't winning. They were walking straight into their own demise. Number 8. When life triumphs over a legacy of wickedness. They thought they were writing your ending, but all they did was sign their own death certificate. Some people spend so much time plotting your downfall that they don't realize they're the ones standing at the edge of the cliff. Your enemies weren't just trying to hurt you, they were trying to erase you. This wasn't about minor inconvenience or temporary setbacks. No, they wanted to wipe you out completely. They weren't satisfied with seeing you struggle. They wanted to see you fall and never rise again. They thought if they destroyed your name, your reputation, and your peace, you'd disappear. But in their obsession with taking you down, they made a fatal mistake. They put a spotlight on their own darkness. The louder they screamed against you, the more people started paying attention. And now, no one remembers them for their success, only their disgrace. They built their entire existence on power, control, and manipulation. But power fades, control slips, and lies always unravel. The very foundation they stood on, cracking beneath their feet. And as they spent their time digging your grave, they never noticed how deep they were sinking into it themselves. Your name, still rising. Your presence, stronger than ever. But them? They're already a ghost, living in the ruins of their own destruction. They thought history would remember them as the victor, the one who took you down. Instead, their legacy is one of failure and disgrace. Their actions exposed them. The same people who once stood beside them are now turning their backs. The same power they flaunted, gone. The name they tried to protect, now nothing but a cautionary tale. What they didn't expect was your resilience. You didn't just survive, you thrived. Every attack they threw at you turned into fuel. Every attempt to break you made you stronger. They set out to destroy you, but they only wrote their own ending. And as time moves forward, their name will fade into nothing, while yours becomes a symbol of survival, strength, and victory. Number 9. The instant collapse, when God strikes without warning. They spent years building their empire of deceit, stacking their lies like bricks, thinking they had built something unshakable. But the higher they climbed, the further they had to fall. And when the moment came, they didn't just stumble, they plummeted. They thought time was on their side. They believed they could manipulate, deceive, and control forever. Their arrogance made them blind. They mistook temporary success for permanence. They convinced themselves that just because nothing had happened yet, nothing ever would. But that's the mistake all fallen empires make. They forget that the collapse doesn't happen slowly. It happens instantly. One moment they were untouchable, calling the shots, sitting in power, feeling invincible. The next, everything vanished. Their status, their control, their fake superiority, gone in a single heartbeat. That's the part they never saw coming. They thought if they ever fell, it would be gradual, that they'd have time to recover, to shift the blame, to scheme their way out. But when the moment arrived, there was no warning, no lifeline, no escape. The chosen ones. You've always known how this works. You've seen it happen before. You've watched people rise on deception, thinking they could rewrite reality. But reality always has the final word. The moment they believed they were beyond consequences was the moment they sealed their own fate. They laughed at the silence. They mistook patience for weakness. They thought they had won. And that's exactly why their fall is so brutal, because it was the last thing they expected. Their empire, their reputation, their influence. It crumbles so fast they don't even have time to react. One day they're feared, respected, obeyed. The next, no one even answers their calls. They spent their whole lives believing they were in control. But the truth is, they were only ever on borrowed time. Number 10. The spiritual immunity that frustrates the wicked. They threw their best shot, emptied their arsenal, and stood over you, waiting for the final breath to leave your body. But instead of fading away, you stood up, stronger, sharper, and more dangerous than ever. And now, they're the ones gasping for air. They thought they had you. They thought the weight of their schemes, the relentless attacks, and the chaos they unleashed would be enough to break you for good. They expected you to fall like the rest, to shatter under the pressure, to fold under the weight of everything they threw your way. But here's what they never understood. You are built differently. That's why their strategies failed. It's why, no matter how many times they tried, they never succeeded. Because what they were fighting wasn't just a person. It was something far beyond their understanding. You have an armor they cannot penetrate, an immunity they cannot explain. While they operate in deception and greed, you move with purpose and resilience. And that drives them insane. They've seen others fall from much less. They've watched people crumble under the same pressure they put you through. But you took every hit, every betrayal, every attack, and still you remain. That is what haunts them the most. They have no idea why their weapons don't work against you. Their power was always temporary. Their influence? Built on a foundation of lies. Their plans? Doomed from the start. The moment they set their sights on you, they signed their own downfall. And now, as they face the consequences of their actions, they're left speechless. Because you are still here, still standing, still thriving, you were never meant to lose this battle. They were. And as they sit in the ruins of their own destruction, watching everything they built collapse before their eyes, one truth will finally sink in. They should have never come for you. Number 11. The double prison. When the body is locked, but the soul suffocates. They thought locking you out would give them power, but now they're the ones locked in, trapped not just behind bars, but inside their own minds. And unlike a jail sentence, there's no parole from regret. Jail isn't just a place with bars and walls. The real prison? It's inside them, a slow, suffocating sentence of their own making. At first, they thought they had won. They celebrated, convinced they had destroyed you, erased you, broken you beyond repair. But now, the reality is sinking in, and the weight of it, unbearable. Yes, they may sit behind physical bars, stripped of their influence, their power, their freedom. But it's the prison of the mind that will haunt them the most. When the doors lock and the silence settles in, that's when the real punishment begins. Because the worst kind of suffering isn't what happens on the outside, it's what eats you alive from within. No more distractions, no more people to manipulate, no more fake power to hide behind. Just them, their thoughts, and the truth they tried so hard to deny. Every lie they told, every betrayal, every moment they thought they were untouchable, it all replays in their head, over and over, like a movie they can't turn off. And this time, they can't escape it. Because here's what they never understood. Power doesn't come from tearing others down. Power comes from resilience, from truth, from the ability to rise despite every attack. That's why you, the chosen one, are still standing while they crumble. They tried to steal your freedom, your spirit, your very existence. But in the end, they only imprisoned themselves. The worst part? No amount of money, no legal tricks, no backroom deals can free them from this sentence. Because you can escape a jail cell, but you can't escape yourself. Meanwhile, you continue to rise, untouched, unshaken, free. While they rot in the prison they built for themselves, you walk forward, proving once again that those who try to bury the chosen ones only end up digging their own graves. Number 12. God's justice is surgical, and it cuts deep. They thought they had mastered the game, but the game was always rigged against them. Consequences don't come swinging wildly in the dark. They strike like a blade, sharp, precise, and aimed straight at the weakest part of their empire. When people think they've gotten away with everything, the lies, the manipulation, the betrayals, that's when the real reckoning begins. It doesn't come in random chaos. It doesn't come in blind fury. It comes with surgical precision, the kind of downfall that doesn't just strip them of what they have. It shatters what they thought they were. See, revenge is sloppy. It lashes out, destroys everything in its path, leaving collateral damage. But true justice is exact. It doesn't just hit their finances, their power, or their status. It goes for the one thing they never thought they'd lose, their identity. That's the mistake they made. They believed their control was permanent, that their money, their connections, their influence would always protect them. But now, they're watching it all slip through their fingers. And the worst part, they have no idea how to stop it. Their downfall is hitting the core of who they are. The very thing they used to define themselves is the very thing being taken away. If they thrived on power, now they are powerless. If they built their life on lies, now they are being exposed. If they thought they could manipulate everyone, now they are the ones being played. This is not random punishment. This is the perfect lesson, and it's not just for them. It's for everyone watching. Every ally who stood beside them, every person who believed they were invincible, they're all witnessing the fall in real time. And when it's over, no one will ever see them the same way again. You see, this was never about destroying them. It was about restoring balance, about proving that no matter how far they ran, no matter how much they built on deception, there was always an end to their reign. And just like that, the game is over. They thought they were untouchable, that their power was permanent, that they had control over everything, including you. But now, they are the ones drowning in the ruins of their own making. Every move they made against you only sped up their downfall. You didn't have to lift a finger, because the truth always takes care of itself. If you've ever been underestimated, attacked, or betrayed, drop 77 in the comments. Like, subscribe, and share this message. Because one thing is certain, the chosen don't fall, we rise.